Nakano's restaurant on 6th and University has been boarded up for decades. It's exactly the kind of blighted building the new city ordinance aims to clean up with fines to owners of abandoned property. Here with details about who is and who is not affected by the ordinance is Andrew Keatts, a reporter at the San Diego Daily Transcript. Andrew, thanks for being here. How did the city change its definition of the as far as when it comes to abandoned property, and why did they do it now?
Yeah, so they did this now specifically because they were across districts just overwhelmed with constituent calls complaining about ordinances or with properties that they simply weren't able to do anything about. So what they did was they expanded the definition of an abandoned property to give them more leeway to handle those constituent calls. So previously, something was only considered an abandoned property if it was unsecure, if it was a safety hazard. What they've done now is they say anything that's vacant, whether it's a structure or a lot, is considered abandoned if it has code compliance or public nuisance issues. And then they also added vacant structures that have a notice of default filed for them, which is the first level of a foreclosure process.
Right, the first step in trying to go into a foreclosure process. What about exceptions? Are there exceptions for historic places, let's say like those beach cottages in La Jolla?
There isn't a specific exception for historic properties, but what there is once a property becomes part of the program, the owner is going to have to file a notice of intent to say what they want to do with it. So the notice of intent, if it's an historic structure, would be when it comes in. So if the notice of intent said my aim is to preserve it, that would be one thing. If they wanted to demolish it or rehabilitate it, they would have to still go through the historic review process. So ultimately those things wouldn't be changed.
And it still has to be code compliant, even if it is going under historic review.
Yeah, it would still have to be code compliant, which would mean it would have to not have an overgrown lawn. It would not have to be subject to vandalism or graffiti or house vagrants or anything that might be a public nuisance. So you'd still have to be a responsible owner, but ultimately if your intention was to keep it in its present state, you could do that as long as you filed a notice of intent.
The San Diego Association of Realtors opposed this ordinance and one other. How come?
Well, the San Diego Association of Realtors opposed this ordinance, one might say because they had it confused with another ordinance, which was the Property Value Protection Ordinance, which would, where this one, the Abandoned Property Ordinance, is very reactive. The city can't do anything unless the neighbors complain. The Property Value Protection Ordinance, which is going to come up for vote in October, is proactive. That's going to be one where the moment a foreclosure process goes underway, the owner is going to need to file a registry with the city to say, here is this foreclosure process that's underway, so that if it goes vacant, if it becomes an issue, the city will have a head start on knowing who they need to hold responsible. Let's
put it in perspective here. As long as I can remember, the old Nakano's restaurant in prime real estate property in Hillcrest has been boarded up. It's been vacant. How will this law, let's say, impact the owner?
Sure. So Nakano's wasn't subject to the pre-existing abandoned property ordinance because it was secure. It was secure, so it wasn't something that needed to be dealt with. The fact that now there's this expanded definition, it'll fall under that new definition. So the owner now will have to file a notice of intent with the city explaining what exactly he wants to do with the property. If his intention is to sit on it because he thinks it's a valuable piece of property, but he doesn't know what he wants to do with it, or he doesn't have the money to do anything with it, that's not an issue for Mr. Nakano. But if in fact it were for somebody else, they could do that. They just need to keep it code compliant in the meantime, and the notice of intent would go to the Code Enforcement Department, and they would deal with that.
There's a fine involved, though. You don't get just ignore the ordinance.
Yeah, only if you are part of the program and you come out of code compliance, if you're a public nuisance, you're subject to fines every 90 days. First $500, then $1,000, then $1,500. But the fine is not allowed to top $5,000 in any given year.
So some people like Mr. Nakano, probably $5,000 may not sting as much.
Yeah, it might not sting as much, but the Nakano's restaurant isn't considered a public nuisance. So he would have to file the notice of intent, but as of now, that property isn't subject to graffiti, there isn't a crime associated with it, so it would really be fine. He would just have to, for the first time, which he didn't have to do before, he'll have to file a notice of intent with the city.
How will this be enforced? Or I imagine there's going to be code people driving around the city going, you're a bad building, you're a good building, but that's not the case.
No, that's not the case. It's entirely reactive. So only when there are constituent complaints that there's an abandoned commercial building, an abandoned home, an abandoned lot that's causing some sort of concern with the city, then the city would have the opportunity to put code enforcement on that issue. So the expanded definition will mean that they need to have one more code compliance officer. So that's going to cost the city upwards of about $100,000. And
not just for his salary, but for everything.
For everything, for the resources associated with everything that he has to do. And he's expected, or he or she is expected to handle about 130 new complaints per year, given the expansion of the ordinance.
Okay, we'll be following this. Andrew Keatts with San Diego Daily Transcript. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Peggy.